Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 2 of the SRU's podcast, where you all are just in time for music. Our guest this week is our vice president of the orchestra. He's been holding his own for a while now, but gratefully this year, he doesn't have to anymore because we have way more violas. Please welcome Holden Fanning.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Not so much. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. I figure got to start somewhere, right? Start with the officers, work our way out.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you play viola, as I had said.
Yes.
How long have you been playing?
Oh my gosh. Since about 3rd grade. So, I want to say 12 years now.
Oh, no way. Dude, I started my 3rd grade year, too.
Really?
Yeah. I was like the last class to actually do it, because then they changed it. I want to say they changed it to 5th grade, and then they changed it down to 4th grade, and 4th grade's been where it's at, like, ever since, like, in my district.
Okay.
Yeah. So, give us a little context of your major and, like, what year of school you're in here at SRU.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a sophomore, but because I actually, this isn't my first university. I went to Lock Haven University, which is actually my hometown, and I was going there for history education after I graduated high school. And then I decided I didn't really like it there. I didn't really like history. I love history as a hobby, not as a job. So I decided to transfer here to Slippery Rock, and that was my 3rd semester in college when I transferred here.
Oh, wow.
But because I changed majors, basically everything started from ground zero. So I'm a sophomore, and I'm a music therapy major. I love music therapy. I'm a psych minor, and I obviously play the viola. So, yeah.
So tell the folks at home a little more about, like, what music therapy is, because I personally only know, like, the very basics of it because I went to this, like, online conference where it was, like, any sort of music job you can imagine. They had some sort of, like, master class talking about it, and I went to the music therapy one just for fun because I'd never heard of the practice of using music as a sense of, like, therapeutic way to relax.
Yeah, it's a little hard to explain, but not just because there's so many different definitions. You know, music therapy as a practice wasn't officially really started until I believe like the 70s or 80s, but there's been records of it being used since like the 1900s. But it's really about having a music therapist working with a client or a group of clients and working on goals and using music interventions to try and meet those goals and just help people as much as we can. So, like, the populations that work really well with music therapy are children, older adults, like the elderly, and people with, like, Down syndrome or anything like that. They just really respond well to it. And it's actually interesting you said music can be therapeutic. Like, it's actually one of the reasons that got me into music therapy. Music can absolutely be therapeutic.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Which is one of the reasons I was interested in it. But therapeutic doesn't mean therapy. Because, like, anyone can go to the nursing home and play some music. And that's awesome, and I encourage you all to do that. If you are a musician and you want to give to your community, that's something you could totally do. But that's not music therapy. So, like, you have to be a trained therapist. You have to, like, go through all the curriculum. Like, it's interesting, and it's complicated.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So I guess, is there, like, field work that you do, like, as part of the curriculum?
Yes, actually. So even though I'm a sophomore, I'm actually already starting field work. We actually have a clinic here at Slippery Rock in the music department. It's the Sue Shuttleworth Music Department clinic. And I'm working with my first ever clients. And I obviously have a supervisor above me because I'm not qualified to work by myself. But starting your sophomore year here at Slippery Rock, especially, you start working in the field, like some people are at hospitals or other places. And then your senior spring semester, you actually get an internship. And the internship is in the spring and then the summer. and you have to have so many hours to actually graduate, and then you have to take the exam. And then once I take and pass the exam, I will be a licensed music therapy board certified therapist.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that like as part of like working with a client, you set goals. Like if you could make up an example for us, maybe like tell us like what sort of goals you can set with like a certain client.
Absolutely. So for maybe like an elderly patient, an older adult, they're having, let's say, fine motor difficulties. So fine motor is like your hands, your fingers. Gross motor would be like walking or something. So like fine, small, gross, big. So like maybe I will help a patient who's having gross motor, like they're having difficulty using their hands. And I'll maybe try, like I'll come in and I'll play a song, and then part of the song they have to do movements to, and part of those movements are like training your arms or your hands to do something. Music therapy works especially well with physical therapy. Physical therapy and music therapy really can go hand in hand sometimes. Maybe if there's a patient with some cognitive problems or maybe memory problems, we could do like a memory game with like I'll play a song, and like maybe I'll play the song and then I'll play it again, but this time there's a word missing. So I have to ask, I ask for the client's help, like, hey, what word's missing? Do you know? Like, can you help me figure out what word is missing? And those are very, very small examples, but the scope of music therapy really can go far and wide. This is fascinating to me. I just had a case study for one of my classes, and it was actually about a music therapist, I believe in Australia, who was doing music therapy with a pregnant woman.
Interesting.
And they wanted to try to do a natural birth, and they didn't want to use any pain medication. But they got recommended to this music therapist, and they actually used recorded tracks from the music therapist that helped during the birth of the baby.
Wow.
And it like helped the mother because like there were certain rhythms in the music that helped during the labor, and like it was a lot of relaxing and soothing music. And it was like I've never even thought of doing something like that before. And then like the whole dilemma of like, is it just the mother? Is it also the father? Like, what about the baby? When the baby's born, is that a music therapy client? Like how the scope really can widen when you include stuff like that. It was just really interesting to read about.
So would you say that music therapy is more an industry that doesn't have like a defined limit yet?
I definitely say it's kind of in its early stages. It's been around, I think I said, since the 80s, and there's been a ton of people like pushing the field to new heights. Kenneth Bruscia, Sue Shuttleworth actually was a pretty big component in music therapy here at Slippery Rock. And there's a lot of names that I can't really remember off the top of my head. But yeah, there's definitely new stuff we're trying to find out about music therapy, and it's definitely becoming a lot more wide known as it feels. Like, I think within the next 10, 15 years, you're really going to see a lot more of it, and you're really going to see it a lot more recognized. As in, it's like, not that it's not already recognized, I really feel like in the next couple of years, we're going to see more of a respect for the field, more of an acknowledgement of how it can work with other types of therapy and hospitals and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I definitely can't wait to see like where you go with that, because I feel like after all that you've told us about how music therapy works, it definitely feels like a job that like you would really have fun with, because you can experiment in so many different ways.
Yeah, I love it. If you are interested in music therapy, or you're just interested in any questions I have, or if you have or anything you want to know more about it, just try and talk to someone. Like Slippery Rock has an amazing program. It's actually one of the best in PA. I think it's ranked nationally. I think like top 20. Like if you just do a little digging, it's out there. And yeah, I'd be more than willing to help anyone I can.
So, we've established the background of your major, what's going on with how long you've been playing and how you've been holding your own for a while. Yes, I know, puns, they're great. So let's move more to outside music. So I know this is hard to believe, but as musicians, we do have a life outside of playing music. So what are some of like your hobbies and your interests and things you do outside of music?
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to remember because as a music major, you are here in the music building a lot.
Yeah.
Like just the other night, I was here until like 9 o'clock practicing.
Jeez.
Because, your life never stops as a music major. I really enjoy reading.
Mm-hmm.
I love reading. I love specifically high fantasy and science fiction. I love movies. I like a lot of older movies. Like I specifically remember, like my dad would like make me watch Star Wars or like Indiana Jones when I was little. So like I always kind of grew up with fond memories for those types of movies.
Yeah.
I really love the outdoors. I was actually a Boy Scout for a number of years, and I actually made it to Eagle in my senior year of high school.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love camping. I love fishing and hiking. Right now, I've really been playing a lot of video games. They kind of help me de-stress sometimes after a long week of tests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The
college life really does take a toll on you after you're up here for a while.
But it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And then very, very recently, I've been getting into Dungeons & Dragons.
That's nice.
So, big nerd.
So, do you have any video games that you recommend, like, to others to play?
I really enjoy Minecraft, but something that's really peaceful, if you don't want anything too hectic, is a game called Stardew Valley. Sorry. Stardew Valley is a very relaxing farming game. Very cute. The animation and the music in it is very nice. And like sometimes I'll play a game that's like really stressful, and I get like, oh, why am I playing this? I suck at video games, and then I go back to Minecraft or Stardew Valley because anything that stresses me out doesn't really work well in video games.
Yeah. As a gamer myself, I've learned that like when you start to like really branch out and play like games that are more stressful, there's always those few games that you can just come right back to and just feel right at home with.
Exactly.
Like for me, the Lego Marvel games are some of the games I will always come running back to because they were just super good and it's just relaxing because I could just replay the story if I want to. I could explore like anywhere in that game and just increase my Marvel knowledge if I really wanted to.
Yeah, I always enjoyed the Lego games. I used to have a Wii back when I was younger, and I really liked Lego Star Wars on that, just because, obviously, as I said, I love Star Wars, and then Lego games always kind of had a funny twist.
Yeah.
That I just really enjoyed.
Yeah. The Lego games always seem to have a knack to make, like, even, like, the most obvious, like, the Marvel movies, they would just make them so much funnier than you would see them, like, in the theaters and stuff, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, now that we've covered the outside of music side of our lives, let's dive right back into the music, and let's maybe get some notes on, like, how you got involved. Like, what made you choose the viola as opposed to that beautiful thing called the violin, or the cello or the bass or anything like that?
No. For those of you that aren't musicians, the viola is kind of the butt of the orchestra, the joke. At the time when I chose, like I was in third grade, so, I was like a dumb little kid, and I really liked the cello and the bass. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, but I don't want to lug them around everywhere because they're really heavy. And then I was like, I don't want to be the violinist because everyone is going to be a violinist. And I was like, I want to be different. So I was like, I'll choose the viola. And the other thing that really sold it for me was we had like a symposium almost where the music teacher came in and she was playing each instrument.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, on the viola you could even play Jaws. And I'm like, sold. I was like, you can play Jaws, and it's not heavy, but it's not the violin. I was like, it's perfect. And, I've just been playing viola ever since.
That's awesome. So, what makes the viola different from the violin? Because if people looked at pictures and things, you could tell, like, they almost look identical. I mean, you play both up here, like, on your shoulder. They both, like, have a bow. They both have 4 strings. What makes the viola so much different compared to a violin?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I truthfully have answered that more times than I can count. Some people just assume I play violin, and sometimes I don't even have, like, the energy to correct them. But the viola is, I think, very fascinating because if you do know anything about music, it is one of the few instruments that reads alto clef. So violin plays treble clef, cello and bass play bass clef. A lot of instruments play either treble or bass.
Right.
Viola is one of the few that actually plays alto. So automatically, that's the thing that sets it apart. It plays in a totally different clef than every other instrument. Size-wise, it's kind of like if you mashed a cello and a violin together. So you have that kind of dark, warm tone of a cello. Then you try to, like, stick it in the instrument the size of a violin. And it actually kind of causes some problems because violins are very structured in how they're sized. So, like, you have such and such size violin. And, like, it actually only goes up to a certain size. Like, after a certain point, they don't make violins. But that's not the case for violas. Violas are actually fascinating because you're trying to mix the size with the tone. So, like, there's no standardization for violas, at least as far as I'm aware, and I could be totally wrong, but from what little knowledge I have of the instrument I play, at least the way it's made, it is very much like you can just keep getting bigger. And obviously at a certain point, it's basically a cello. But it can get bigger and bigger depending on the person, depending on the tone you want for the viola. It's really interesting. And so it's a little bigger. Like, no matter the smallest viola you're going to have is going to be bigger than any violin, pretty much. And I believe the F-holes, where our sound comes out of, is also bigger. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know exactly about that. Sorry, he's nodding our head.
We have a very nice camera guy who you might have seen in episode 1. Pierce, do you want to say something for the audience?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say something earlier. Holden, you said you played Stardew Valley. Who'd you marry in Stardew Valley?
Who did I marry?
Who'd you marry in Stardew Valley?
I think I married Penny.
You would marry. Anyway, continue. Regular scheduled programming.
Regular scheduled
I'm just going to be silently judging you from behind the camera.
Oh, okay. What was this? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the sound that comes out is a lot darker, a lot warmer than the violin. It has a deeper, richer tone. And another thing that's actually different is the strings. So the lowest string on a violin is a G string, and then the highest is an E. So for me, the lowest is a C string, and the highest is an A, which is actually the same kind of strings for a cello, but I believe mine are an octave above a cello. But those are probably the biggest differences. Mostly size. Like, if you put a violin and a viola next to each other, you can tell one's different than the other.
Yeah. Like, I think we might have held up our instruments together, like, once, just, like, to see. And, like, his instrument is bigger than mine.
Oh,
let's see here. Let's see.
So, yeah.
I don't know if you can tell, but his is about maybe 6 inches, maybe 3 to 6 inches more in the body, and then just, like, the neck and then the scroll are also, like, much bigger as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing them side by side because, like, where our sound comes out of is clearly bigger for a viola. Like, the neck's longer, which is actually really interesting because I think I was playing Pierce's violin the other day, and he noticed that my fingers were spread out way more than they should be because for the viola, like, I have to stretch a lot, but they don't on violins because it, like, my instrument is not only longer, it's also wider. Longer and wider. So it's it's just really interesting seeing the two compared to each other.
Very nice, very nice. So, we got into playing. You've played like 12 years now. In your past years of your career, did you ever play with any like outside of school groups?
Not necessarily groups. I think most of my... that's not true. It was affiliated with the school, but I did go to PCMEA for 2 years, districts twice, and I made it to regionals once.
That's awesome.
I never made it past regionals.
Honestly, same here.
It was incredibly hard, but that was, I think, some of my first taste of symphonic orchestra.
Yeah.
Because up until that point in high school, I've only played string orchestra. Because I don't come from a very rich music school. If anyone knows Central Mountain High School in central Pennsylvania, near Lock Haven, PA, or Keystone Central School District, that's where I went to school. Yeah, we didn't really have that big of a band or that big of an orchestra. I think in total we had maybe 25 people at our height when I was in school.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was always strings.
Yeah.
And then when I went to PCMAA, that was the first time I've ever played in a full orchestra with the brass and with the percussion, and it was really awesome. It was incredible. Outside of all school affiliated events, I've mostly played in my church.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's actually a lot of where my experience playing solo came from. I would do a lot of stuff with my grandmother, who's a pianist. He's actually like my only family member that plays any kind of musical instrument. Like, I don't really come from a musical family besides her. So that was always really a good memory for me to play in my church. And I was terrible. Like, don't get me wrong, I sucked. Like, this was like 4th grade Holden, like, playing in the front of his entire church. And I was like, I was terrified. But the community there that encouraged me really helped me to get more confidence and helped me to continue music. Yeah, that's probably about the only time I've really played outside of school.
See, the way, how do I put this? From where I came from, it's like the complete opposite. Like, at my school, like, I feel like music was one of the things, like, that were probably one of our biggest organizations, aside from, like, the sports and everything. Like, our band was always huge. Like, we always had, like, maybe 100 or more people.
Oh, wow.
We also, like, the orchestra was kind of like the music of the shadows, essentially, because, like, even still to this day, I think maybe we have 20 kids at most, like, just from, like, the higher up class, but combined, I think maybe we have 40.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, it was nice because I knew everybody, and, like, I put on some great shows with some friends, and, like, we've done so much, like, work together that, like, anytime we get together to, like, work on music or whatever, we automatically know, like, oh, okay, this is, like, in our range, or, oh, there's no way we're doing this without a bunch of extra practice. Like, it's been a lot of fun, and I even got some of the people that I worked with in school to join Opus, which was my outside of school group that I played with for, like, many years. And as I mentioned in episode 1, this podcast is sort of like a recruiting front in a way, just because, like, we could always use more talent in the strings up here, and I come from a background where I helped to rebuild Opus after COVID because we had like 10 kids. So I had worked with a couple friends, and we sent emails to all these surrounding districts trying to get more people, and it actually worked. So, like, we've kept that going for like a couple years now, and then now that I'm gone, I've passed it on so that my friends and some others are like just trying to keep that going in a way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and that's really what we need to do here, because I think with so many schools across the country, COVID has just killed us. And yeah, I don't really want to talk about that right now, but I really feel like Dr. Zhang, who's the orchestra director here at Slippery Rock, is doing a wonderful job. Like, she is the most wonderful conductor I've ever worked with, and she's going to do great things here. I really think she's taken the orchestra in a wonderful direction.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, the fact that she was so willing to actually give this idea a chance, and like we're actually sitting here now, like we've got everything working the right way, and like just the fact that she's so supportive of all of our efforts, whether it be like just working on things in the keyboard or working in rehearsals or actually going through with the podcast idea. Like, she's always open to new ideas and trying things that wouldn't necessarily be what everyone has thought of. And it's really cool to see that, like, she's so supportive.
Yeah, and she's insanely talented.
Yeah.
Like, it was actually just announced today, she was a part of some competition. I think it was specifically female conductors in Paris. And of 114, from what I can remember, of 114 people that applied, she's the one that won.
Yeah.
So now, next March, she gets to go to Paris and perform for the Paris Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
So actually, it was kind of like she's like one of the finalists. So like it was like at 140 something, there's like 14 finalists.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
From across the whole, from across the world, each representing different countries.
Pierce, what would we do without you, man?
Yeah, really. But yeah, she's just so talented, and like during my lessons, she'll like her main instrument's violin, but she also plays viola, and I just love listening to her play. Like,
yeah.
She's smart, she's insanely talented, and the thing I really love most about her conducting is she's passionate.
Yeah.
Like, the past 2 concerts I've done with her were probably my favorite concerts I've ever done in a group, in an orchestra.
Yeah.
And she throws her whole heart into the conducting. Like, you can tell this is what she wants to do. You can tell this is her livelihood, and she just loves doing it. It's really incredible to watch, and it just really gets you pumped.
Yeah, and when a conductor has that energy, it's way easier for the rest of the orchestra to actually be invested. Like, every day when we go into rehearsals, we see like, oh yeah, Dr. John's here, she's ready to go, she's excited. And it just gets the rest of us pumped up, and we always like put in so much work, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, so in your career, your vast 12 years of experience, what would you say is probably your greatest moment? It could be song, festival you went to, another memory of some sort, something that you did like with a conductor, anything.
Wow, that's really hard, because there's a lot. It's so hard to narrow it down to just one. But I think probably the first time I ever really was pumped to be like, I've always enjoyed music, but I think I mentioned before the PCMEA. Like, the first time I've ever gone and just actually being a part of an orchestra, like a full orchestra. Because, like, I've seen videos, or, like, I've listened to orchestral music, but I've never been in an orchestra. So just being in that environment was just really an eye-opener on how far someone can go into music.
Yeah, I'd say for mine, it would have to be when I got selected this past year to play side by side with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, because that was my second time I applied, because the first time I didn't make it in. But I applied, I got in, and it was truly just an honor to be a part of such like an elite group of musicians, like all like around the state. Like, I learned so much from like all the people that I played with, and even like our mentors that were there as our stand partners. Like, they had actual members of the Pittsburgh Symphony that volunteered to be a part of it, and our stand partners were all members that taught us different things that I've even applied to my playing today. And I still feel like I may have done some cool things in the past, but I know the future is where the best parts of my career are going to lie. So it's safe to say I think the best is yet to come.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good mindset to have.
So we've probably both been through our fair share of conductors and teachers and all that, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is probably the best piece of musical advice that you were given by like family that were like music-based, teachers, private lesson instructors, anything like that?
Well, dude, that's a lot. Like, There's so many good ones. Probably, I think it was actually my grandmother that told me this. And she said, even if you make a mistake, just keep playing. Because 9 times out of 10, unless you have an audience full of fully trained musicians, no one's going to know what you did.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they think it sounds good. Like, they think, oh, like, whatever. Like, just keep going. Because the moment you get inside your head, it all falls apart. Yeah, it has saved me more time than I can count.
Yeah. But I've learned a lot over the years that your worst enemy when it comes to music is yourself, because you're always going to evaluate, even like while you're playing or post concerts, like you'll always be like, oh, what could I have done better? Why did I do this? Why did I do that?
Yep.
But I'd say probably my best advice, granted, I come from a pretty musical family. Like, my mom was in the choir. She went to St. Vincent College, and they did all sorts of stuff. Like, they even released an album for their, I want to say it was like their 200th year.
Oh, wow.
Of, like, being, like, a school. My dad, like, played the bass. He was in a couple different bands that he made, like, with some of his friends. My grandpa, like, still to this day, like, plays guitar, bass, ukulele. He goes out gigging around with some of his friends. Like, there's a lot of music in our family, and I feel like probably the best advice I've gotten comes from my mom, and it's rather simple. She'll always bust into my room whenever I'm practicing and be like, play that again, this didn't sound right. But the one thing she always says is more vibrato. But vibrato was the concept that I never really learned the right way to do. So I honestly just picked it up, like, off of, like, a couple people that I saw doing it that sat in front of me, like, in my time in junior high. Mm-hmm. So, like, I applied it in my own way, not really realizing, like, oh, this isn't the right way to be doing it. So now I have to, like, retrain my whole left hand with how I play, because instead of doing my weird way of vibrato, I have to do it the correct way if I actually want my music to get that.
Right.
But it's just nice because, like, even when I went into the audition here, on my walk down to the music building, I called my mom and was like, Mom, I need you to say it just one time before I go in. And she was like, more vibrato.
More vibrato.
And I think part of that is just like, it always resonates with me because of how frequent she says it. And it's just nice because, like, it doesn't have to be a teacher that gives you the greatest advice. Even your parents may actually know stuff and give you the advice that you can carry with you for, like, the rest of your music career.
Yeah.
So, why, if you talk to, like, a student in high school that was, like, just graduating, trying to figure out what college they were going to go to, and they were thinking Slippery Rock, but they weren't sure about the music, what would be your reasoning to tell them that they should continue to play music at SRU? Like, what makes music here so great?
Ooh, that's a good one. Sometimes it's hard to put in words, and I think right now, let's be clear, this is in the fall midterms week.
Yeah.
We're recording this. So, I kind of want to say run away. Like, not really, but it's going to be hard, and don't let anyone lie to you about that. It is going to be so hard. And you're going to wonder why you did this major and why you came here. But then you have those moments after the concert where you have that feeling of elation. Because you and a group of people that you have been working with so closely, that you know so strongly, made music. You made something that moved people. Music can move people in incredible ways. And just feeling that connection, feeling the audience's excitement, that's what makes music here in Slippery Rock so great. The people we have here are wonderful musicians. The professors here are very supportive. I can say nothing but praise about Dr. Shell. And I can't speak for the education professors, but for the therapy professors, they feel like family. Like, the people in my major, I'm around every day, and, like, I have no fears about going to someone and asking them a question about an assignment, or helping someone with a question they have, or, like, just the other day, I am not a vocalist, obviously, and I had a bunch of vocal questions for my friend, and she's like, yeah, let's sit down and let's go through this. And it was rough, because I cannot sing very well, but she was just so supportive, and it's just really nice seeing people that are there for you, because you're all in the same boat. It's hard, but it's going to be worth it.
See, I may have just found you a new profession, and I think you should go into being a motivational speaker.
Oh gosh. Maybe on the side.
Hey, what you said moved me, and I'm just sitting right here agreeing. But yeah, like, I come from more of a background where it's like, I'm not a music major by trade. Like, I'm in middle level education, and I have a concentration in English right now. Just because, like, on one hand, it's like I wanted to do music, but at the same time, it's just like, I really don't care about band, and I really don't care about choir. I'm sorry if any of you guys are band or choir fans, but, like, strings is my home. It's been what I've known for the past, like, 10 years. And, like, honestly, like, the people I'm around in my regular classes, like, I rarely talk to them other than just to do work. But when I tune into SWOPE, which is our music building, when I'm with, like, you and Pierce and everybody else, like, I feel right at home. It feels like we're long-lost siblings that haven't seen each other in, like, 8 million years. Like, when I first got in here, you and Pierce both welcomed me with open arms, and it was pretty much everything I could ask for, because I had, like, real friends with, like, experience like I had, and, like, we've pretty much grown, like, pretty close, just, like, talking about all sorts of stuff, and even working on, like, keyboard projects, like, ever since day one, and it's been awesome.
It really has. Yeah. I don't think I could really add to that. That was really nice.
It's safe to say music around here is definitely worth it. So, another hypothetical.
Oh boy.
So, you're walking around in the street, like, many years down the road. A stranger comes up to you, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're Holden Fanning. You're that viola guy from Slippery Rock.
Oh gosh.
So, they ask you, why do you play music? What is your philosophy behind music, essentially? Like, why have you still played, like, to this day?
You know, I think that's sometimes a hard thing to ask yourself, especially when you're going through a rough patch, which I am at the moment. Not necessarily because of my experiences here, but because of my self-reflection. Like, I feel like right now I'm kind of in a rut. Like, I feel like I'm not progressing. But, like, if you ask someone who's been watching me for the past year and a half, you say I have improved. So it's hard asking, why do you make music, when you're kind of in that mindset of, why do I make music? Why am I doing this? But I think on a good day, I probably say I love it. I say it's a passion that, you know, not a lot of people can do. Like, and I think that's something that really makes me think is, like, how many people want to learn the guitar, or how many people want to play the piano, and then they never pick it up. Yeah. And it's like something later down in life that you regret. And just having this connection, like, without me playing it, this is just a really fancy wooden thing. Like, but until I play it and until I make sound out of it, it's not going to do anything by its own. Like, seeing people with their voice or with their instrument making music and making connections, connecting to their culture, to their religion, to their family, it's really powerful. And I think that's why I do it.
Yeah. Like, I have so many, like, family memories of playing music. Like, Christmas time, like, the past few years, like, I'd say maybe more towards, like, my time in, like, junior high school. Like, myself, my brother, my dad, and my grandpa, we'd all just sit down and play a bunch of Christmas carols. Like, when my mom would have, like, her work Christmas party back in the day, like, she'd invite all her friends over, And my dad and my brother and I just started playing Christmas carols one year, and then it became a tradition ever since, because her friends would always ask, hey, are all the boys downstairs going to play some music for us? And she was like, yeah, but like, it just sucked because the parties just stopped, but like, we still kept the music, and the fact that we were able to keep that memory and improve on it and still keep going with our music, like, I learned a lot from that purely in the sense of I had never played in like a band type setting before. And like being able to test that out like with my dad and my brother, like it helped carry along more knowledge into stuff I did down the road. And I'm really grateful for like all the memories behind all that.
Yeah.
So let's do one more question. So if you could give advice, say you're the teacher giving the advice to the student as opposed to a teacher giving advice to you, what would be one piece of musical advice you would give to any potential future Slippery Rock students or just musicians alike that could be listening to this?
There's so many good ones, and a quote that's really been resonating with me lately, I can't remember for the life of me if it was Mozart or Beethoven. To play, I can't even remember it right now. I'm so sorry. It's basically, yeah. Could you look it up? I'm sorry. I'm asking Pierce to look it up for me.
Yeah. Our camera guy's really coming in clutch this episode.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be where we are right now without him.
But that's obviously not my advice. That's advice from a great composer from an age past. But I guess something that I would say is just keep going. Do not compare yourself to other musicians. That is probably the biggest thing I have ever struggled with, because I feel like I go, like in PCMEA, I went there and I was like, what the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here. I didn't even place a chair my first year. And it was just very much imposter syndrome. Like, I felt like I should just give up viola, I should just quit, like I'm not good enough. Just keep going. There's always going to be people that are better than you, and there's going to be people that aren't as good as you. You can't compare yourselves to other people, because everyone has their own journey. You have your own journey on your instruments and your major, like even non-music. Just go. Just keep doing it and keep improving. That should be the goal. You don't have to play like Beethoven or Mozart. You just want to keep improving and get better. Whatever that is personally for you.
Yeah. I've learned over the years, like, music is something that I can never be like, oh, I'm the best violinist there ever was, because I've learned that just when I think I've learned everything, there's always more to learn. There's always that next technique. There's always that next song I want to pick up. There's always a next something in mind, and that's part of why I love doing what I do. It's like, it never gets dull, but when it does, I know that I'm in a group of like-minded people, and sure, like, we may not be feeling at our best, like playing one random day, but I know the next day we'll be right back on it. We'll be just ready to go.
Yeah. You can't find it?
I got one, and it's on a shirt on Amazon, and it says, "To play is to live."
That's no. Okay, it's like,
Do you know? Is it Leonard Bernstein or something?
no, it's definitely Mozart or Beethoven. It's, well, I'm just going to try and do it from memory. To play one note wrong is like acceptable or something, but to play a note without passion is lovable. I don't even remember. Basically, play with your soul. Even if you're playing wrong, pour your heart into it. I don't even remember if it was Beethoven or Mozart, whatever.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got it. All
You
right,
got
here.
it.
I'll let you read it, though.
You'll let me read it?
Yeah, here.
Don't fuck yourself.
I don't want to fuck him. Hey, guys. Sorry.
Cameraman at his finest.
All right.
Beethoven, okay, it was Beethoven. Beethoven once said, "To play a wrong note is insignificant, but to play without passion is inexcusable."
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty good quote.
Very
But
nice.
not really my wisdom, if you want to call it that. Oh, this is yours.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Hello? No. Really? Okay, then. This just in. So, on November 14th, we have a concert here on the Slippery Rock campus at Swope Music Hall. It is at 7:30, and it is a journey through art and dance. You can get your tickets at sru.universitytickets.com. And if you want to follow what the orchestra is doing, you can follow all of our social medias. They'll be linked down in the description below the video. And now let's cruise on over to the last segment, the jam session.
Alrighty.
That's right. You've heard it here. We got everything up and running. So now Holden's going to play us some sweet viola music.
Alrighty. So the piece that I'm going to play for you today, not all of it, unfortunately, because we don't have the time, is a prelude of Bach's Cello Suite. Originally for cello. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. If you don't know the name, you'll probably recognize it when you start playing. But this is obviously transcribed for viola. And here we go.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Holden, well done, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Good to have you on the show. So that's going to be it for episode 2. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes. For now, we're going to get going. You guys stay musical.
See ya.